You are listening to the Accessibility Corner on Dialogue Radio Network. The Accessibility Corner aims to bring you topics and resources for our local community of people with disabilities.
So, here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get the party started.
Hello, this is George. Welcome to the Accessibility Corner here on Dialogue Radio Network. The Accessibility Corner is brought to you by the Law Office of Stephanie Townsend Ayala. Today, folks, we're going to have a special guest today. We have Ms. Jennifer Coulter, associate lawyer, or attorney with Stephanie Townsend Ayala. She graduated from the University of Texas, the Longhorns. Don't know about the football team, but anyway, and she did graduate with one of the top scores in regarding the bar exam. And I forget to mention that she is also blind. So that's the reason why I said it towards the end, because that's only a part of who she is. But before we go forward, I want to play a little video or a little audio clip that Ms. Coulter did that she testified in front of the Senate, I believe, right, Ms. Coulter?
No. So this is a video I made for the Senate.
Well, for the Senate, I'm sorry.
But I, like most people, had been listening to the news and getting really, really worried. And I thought, I have a story that is really important to be told here because it makes a difference in what we're talking about. And if we can talk about actual lives instead of big, gross numbers, it might make an impact on things.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so yeah, that clip, Mr. Abel?
Should be coming. Hi, I'm Jennifer Coulter. I'm an elder law attorney. I help my clients get Medicaid that pays for the part of their nursing care that their monthly income can't. I love my job. I get to help the greatest generation. But I was horrified when a man told me that he was contemplating suicide to get the life insurance proceeds to pay for his wife's care. Fortunately, I was able to tell him that the system he paid into his whole life would take care of her when he couldn't. But I'm also someone who's only able to stand here in front of you today telling that story because of the Affordable Care Act. When I was 22, I was waiting tables to pay my way through college. My work didn't have health care, so I didn't either. I had a 7-inch blood clot in my brain. I went blind. I did long-lasting nerve damage. That I am alive is a miracle that I will never stop being grateful for. But I got out of the hospital 6 figures in medical debt with no way to pay it off and no foreseeable path to getting back to work. There was a safety net for me. I got Medicaid that paid for my care. I got benefits that helped me go back to school and get the education I needed to become an attorney. Even with that, I still wouldn't have made it without the Affordable Care Act. I have pre-existing conditions that prevented me from getting the care that I needed to be able to get out of bed and come to work every day. Now, though, I'm covered and I'm back at work. I'm paying into the system instead of drawing out of it. I am what we want these systems to be. I am living the American dream because of the Affordable Care Act. If the Grant-Cassidy bill passes, all of that will change. Per capita caps on Medicaid spending will mean that we'll have substantial restrictions on eligibility requirements or possibly even Medicaid nursing home bed rationing. I most likely would not have been able to tell that husband that we could pay for his wife's care without him having to die for it. People like me with pre-existing conditions will not be able to break the cycle of government dependency and get back to work. Healthcare is complicated. No one gets that more than those of us who depend on the system. But I am begging you, the senators who represent us, please don't make this be something that results in harm to so many Americans because you need it done by the end of the month to take advantage of procedural loopholes. The system isn't perfect. It needs work. Sit down. Work together to find a solution. Take the time that you need to get it right, because my life, because all of our lives are on the line and in your hands.
And that was the audio that Ms. Coulter did regarding medical coverage for persons with disabilities. But before we really get involved in that topic, Ms. Coulter, oh, by the way, Ms. Kristin Miller just arrived. Ms. Kristin Miller, she is the president for the National Federation of the Blind here in El Paso, and her service animal, Eva the Diva. So she's getting settled in. Ms. Coulter, where are you from? I mean, just give a little background on yourself, please.
Sure. I'm an Air Force brat, so I'm kind of from around. But when my parents got out of the service, I grew up mostly in Corpus. I did my undergraduate education in Lubbock and my law degree at UT Austin. And then I came to El Paso. Oh, well, that sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then I came to El Paso, which I love, and I'm never leaving.
Cool. How long have you been in El Paso?
6 years.
6 years. Oh, well, the weather's pretty good here, right?
We have beautiful weather and really nice people and good food. Every time I go to a conference, people go, you're from El Paso, like it's the end of the world. And I'm telling them how great it is. And I always eventually get, what are you on there? Chamber of Commerce?
They say El Paso, is that Mexico? Mexico. It's in Texas. And see, back in the day, the Longhorns, I'm going to go to football here, they were better in UTEP, but now it kind of seems to be the same now. But anyways, so why is medical coverage important, Ms. Coulter, for persons with disabilities?
So it's important for everybody, but for those of us who have disabilities, if we want to be productive members of society, we've got to be able to get access to health care that keeps us doing the things that we want to do. It depends, of course, on what the disability is. Some things don't need a lot of care. For my vision, I need zero care. Right? Okay. I'm blind, it is what it is, and there's nothing doctors can do. But I have some other conditions that require ongoing care, and a lot of people do. Without that, there's not a way to get back to doing your life the way you want it to be.
Now, may I ask, people ask me about my blindness.
Sure.
I can see light perception and shadows. I call them shadow people. What do you, how is your vision?
I get a little bit of light perception out of my right eye. If you turn a light on or off at night, I can usually tell.
Okay. Well, Miss Miller?
Yes.
You coming into now. Hi, Miss Miller. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
It's
Sorry,
okay.
I'm late.
No, the lift, of course, always late. Do you use a lift, Miss Coulter?
No, I don't.
You don't.
No.
Anyway, Miss Miller, just kind of give a brief introduction.
Okay, I'm Kristin Miller. I am the president of the Borderland chapter of the National Federation of the Blind, and recently also appointed to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for, I believe, District 1?
District 8.
District 8,
yeah.
Okay, they both contacted me, so
yeah.
got a little confused there. And I actually have a lot of questions. Well, not a lot of questions. I won't bombard you, but I have a friend who is actually going to law school right now at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And he's from Texas, and he wants to practice in Texas. However, he's having a lot of trouble getting accommodations for the Texas bar. He had a couple of questions, which I guess my questions come from him. He is planning on taking the Oklahoma bar because he can get better accommodations as far as taking that one. But he was wondering when you took the Texas bar and how you did as far as studying for that, all the prep, and how you got the accommodations, if any, when you took the bar.
Well, I'm totally blind, so I had to get accommodations. But he's not wrong. It's not a very accommodation-friendly system. Mm-hmm. They had a 50-page application for it or something like it, and it wasn't in a format that I could fill out myself. Mm-hmm. When I went to submit it, they said, you didn't put a handwriting sample in, and I said something like, I don't think you understand how blindness works. And they said, well, you have to put a handwriting sample in. And so in like big block letters, I wrote, I am blind. I will not be writing on the bar.
Ms. Coulter, you know what I do?
That's funny.
When people tell me that for praying or whatever, I hand them my cane. Here, hold this while I do that, please. To kind of let them know, like, hello. But I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, it wasn't something that they knew I was blind when I went to hand it in. I handed it in person. You really have to advocate for yourself in that, because it's not a system that's really set up to handle accommodations in a really super good way. It wasn't. Once I got somebody who was helping me fill out the paperwork to do it, it wasn't all that bad, and I just spent some time down in the local office in Austin going, no, but this is what I need. No, I understand. I know. What do you mean you want me to put stuff in a plastic bag? Okay, I don't care. Whatever. I just need these things. Can we do these things? And they were, once I spent some time talking to them, they were better about getting the accommodations in.
Oh,
So
cool.
It's all about going there in person and just handling it.
You might be able to do it by phone, but it's always about, are you talking to the right person? Are you advocating for yourself? Are you being clear and explaining to people and telling them? Most of the time, I've very seldom ever found that people are ugly about blindness because they're ugly about blind people. They don't know how to behave. They don't interact with a lot of people who have visual impairments on a routine basis. And so with patience and explanation, most people are eventually willing to help once you can help them go, look, I know that these are what your technical rules say, but let's try to be thinking about how that could work here and making it work. And once you do that, I think people have been really good about it.
One thing I found that when I encounter someone that doesn't, like you say, interact with someone with disability or visual disability, they're like, what do you do? And I find that as an opportunity to educate. Because sometimes, it's not like they're doing it intentionally. It's that maybe they how do I guide you? I have people grab my hand, grab my, I'm like, unless you're a cop, you're about to arrest me, back off, or they grab my cane. Or like Miss Miller, they talk to her dog, they distract her service animal.
Yeah, I've had people try to grab her harness actually and try to guide me because they see me doing it, so they think that that's the way they need to guide me, and I just stop dead. I'm like, whoa, that's not how this is going to work. So
do you use a service animal, Miss Coulter? Or?
Oh, yeah, sure. People don't know how to do it, and they grab a hold of you and try to lead you across the street. I'm going, I don't know you. I don't know whether you're safe crossing the street. I know I am.
Exactly.
I had a friend of mine, he lived in L.A., and it reminded me of a story he told me. He goes, George, when I was in L.A., he had this gentleman, I don't know if you know him, Burns Taylor. Have you met him?
Yes.
Yeah, he graduated from UT Austin, and then he graduated from USC. And when he was in Austin, he's totally blind. He was in Austin, in L.A., this man walks up to me and goes, sir, you need help? And it was a busy street. He goes, yeah, I need to go across the street. So he walks him across the street and he goes, oh, that's $5. I'm like, wow, that is messed up. But anywho,
that's a whole new level.
Yeah. Wow. So I know you had other questions, Ms. Miller, because I want to go back to the medical coverage, but do you have other questions?
No, but I came in right on that medical coverage, and that is one thing that I personally would hate to lose. I'm on medications myself and have conditions that need medication daily, and without that medical coverage, without Medicaid and other insurances like that, I would not be able to afford my own medication. Even with a job, for somebody who would work and make decent money, my medication wouldn't be an easy feat. And so that has been something that has really weighed on my mind, and I do a lot of advocacy work here with George, but that's something that I'm not really sure how to go about combating or going up against to try to save it.
Now, before I forget, to my listeners, you can always call or text in. The number is 915-603-5175 or 603-5176. If you want to ask Miss Miller or Miss Coulter a question. And what you're saying, Miss Miller, is that, like for me, Miss Coulter, and I know you have your stories too when it comes to medical coverage, that I do receive Medicaid. And for example, when I was working and I was not getting Medicaid, my glaucoma eye drops were, I think I went one time just to get it, just without no insurance, it was $200 and something. And now with my Medicaid, I only pay, $6? So that enables me to be more inclusive into society. The reason why I say that, because the glaucoma medicine, it helps me, because if I don't take it, my eye hurts. If my eye hurts, I gotta stay home because it hurts. Really bad. And the thing is, people don't realize, politicians don't realize that they're tapping into our lifeline. And so, in your opinion, Ms. Coulter, and I don't want to get political here, but why do you see the current administration so hard bent on taking away those benefits or those medical coverage? What do you think? What's your opinion on that?
You want my cynical answer or my optimistic answer?
Optimistic.
My optimistic answer is that I think that they think that this is not a system that is working and want to find us a system that is. My cynical answer is they railed for like 7 years beforehand about how terrible it was and how the very first thing they would do is repeal it, and now they feel like they have to do something, whether it's a good thing or not.
It's the first round back months ago, they wanted to regard and taking away $800 billion with a B on Medicaid. Then just recently, we were talking before the air, Trump was trying to make an executive order to suspend, I guess, the supplemental payments to the state.
The subsidies.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And there's something in the pipeline that may restrict that for another 2 years. Is that true, Ms. Coulter? I don't know.
So the concept is the government is paying subsidies to health insurance carriers right now to help offset the costs of having people like me in their pool, right? Because I obviously have pre-existing conditions. I cost a lot of money, and it's expensive to have me on insurance. So we've been paying...
Oh, I think we're getting a call.
We are.
Yes.
Oh, we're getting a call. Okay.
Go ahead and ask who the caller is.
Welcome to the Accessibility Corner, and your name is?
Hello?
Hello. Yes, this is the Accessibility Corner. Can you hear me?
Speak here.
Hello?
Can you
Hello?
hear?
Can you hear us?
I can barely hear him.
Okay, how about now? Do you hear me? Hello?
George, look over this way and talk into the mic of the laptop.
Hello? Now, can you hear me? To the left?
I can hear you a little bit.
Can
Okay.
you hear you now?
How about now? Can you hear me now? I feel like the guy from
A little bit
Verizon.
louder.
Okay, I sound like the guy from Verizon. Can you hear me now? So, your name?
My name is Martha Molina.
Oh, that's my mom. Hey, hello everyone. This is my mother.
Yes,
This is my mom. Hey, mom.
yes, and hi, mijo. How are you?
Okay, mom. We have Jennifer Coulter here, and then we have Kristin Miller here. You know Kristin, mom. Go
Yes,
ahead.
I should do. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
You have a question, mom? Or a comment?
Yes, I have a question for Miss Coulter. First of all, I'd like to thank her for being such a good mentor as an attorney for the disabled. And it really is nice to get knowledge from her over the radio and hearing her speak, especially if you've never not met her, knowing the fact that she's blind, and having you, my son, as being blind and being a single parent, bringing up a blind person. This kind of help would have been good at that time. So it really is a very nice that she is attorney for a disabled person. My question is that how come the exposure was not given this much many years ago? Because blindness has been forever. Any disability has been forever, and we weren't exposed to this kind of information. I know when I was a single parent trying to pay for the Blue Cross Blue Shield, it was like 300 and something a month, and now it was like, how old are you, mijo?
44.
That was a long time ago. So it was very hard, especially after I got divorced, to maintain his eye drops, taking him to the doctor and all that, or the accommodations. Nobody in the state, nobody offered me accommodations. We started finding out little by little, and as George grew up, he started advocating since he was really young about the disability, and he still had a little bit of eyesight, which was good. And I got exposure to it when I got chosen from El Paso to go to Austin, to college there, to the abilities of the blind, which I was astonished at. I was scared as a parent, very scared of what he was going to be going through as he grew up and had to be on his own. So I got exposure a little bit of what was going on and how to handle it. So I had to let go of what a lot of things that I did to him, which made him independent. And I'm glad I did. But a lot of people use it like a coverage, like a blanket over their child when they have a disability, instead of doing the reverse, instead of showing them how to be independent. But a lot of times we were told no by the government because I was working and making money or whatever. And so he became, I think I brought up a nice looking, handsome, young advocate for my son. I'm giving him a lot of credit there because he does advocate a lot, does a lot of work on his own, and he researches a lot of stuff first. So I'm real proud of him, and I'm real proud of you, Miss Coulter, because of your disability. And this is a good example not only to him, but to anybody who has any kind of disability, that you can do whatever you want to accomplish to do.
Yep,
my problem is now, I fell last year myself. I've worked for 56 years, put into the Medicare, and now I'm not able to get any assistance because I do not qualify for Medicaid, because I go over like $28 over the standard of what you're supposed to make. And to me, it's very unreasonable that they kicked me out of a rehabilitation for after 20 days, and anybody else who's on Medicaid, and some of those people never worked in El Paso, and I'm not trying to be racial about this because they had all kinds of races in there, but some of them didn't speak English, they never worked here, they never did anything. They acquired a Social Security number because maybe one of their sons got it for them in there, but they could stay there, I think, like the whole year and get the therapy. And here I am having to stay at home, get home therapy only twice a week. And I put in there for 56 years. I started working since I was 13. So how do you fight something like this?
Yeah, I tell my mom that
if you put into the piggy bank, you should be able to take out of the piggy bank. If you don't put into that piggy bank, then you know what? It's just like the government could tell me no. Unfortunately, you just let them know that, they had to have worked here.
Like my mom,
go on a point system.
So like my mom, she needs a personal care attendant, and just to let the listeners know, and this is for anyone that that has a mobility issue, she needs a personal care attendant that helps her get ready to and they no. So right now she has zero personal care attendant where she has to tend for herself. She can't really go to the restroom or to cook for herself. By the way, she makes some good food. Oh my Lord, that's why I am like I am. But anyway,
well, Miss Molina, I think let me start by saying you're telling me how wonderful it is for me to be here talking to you, but I'm going to tell you it's an honor for me to be here, getting to talk to you. People like you are the reason that there is exposure now, because people like you got out there and advocated and made this a thing that says, let's come out of the shadows and let's be part of society, and let's make people, well, not make people, but let's give people the opportunity to be aware of what's going on. But you're right, the system is intensely complicated, and you don't always get accurate answers when you're talking to people in the system. For example, you're $28 over the income limit in a nursing facility. The immediate next thing I always want a caseworker to say is, but that's a totally fixable problem. And caseworkers are given really terrible restrictions about what they can and can't say. Basically, you can tell them they're not qualified, but you can't tell them how to fix that problem, because telling them how to fix it is legal advice, and they aren't lawyers, and blah, blah, blah.
Which is sad. I mean, because like my mom was saying, which is for me is frustrating, because I started working when I was 15, and you pay into the system so many years, and then when you really need it, really, really need it, they say no. And for my mom, I've seen it firsthand, where my mom has to struggle and to maintain that quality of life. And she's gotten sick several times because of UTIs, because she really didn't have that proper care attendant. And for me, it's very frustrating because I see that. I saw that firsthand.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, I hope that the people understand that when my mom says, when she made that comment about, she paid 56 years, but yet you have someone just walk in and they get everything. Medical care, housing, where my mom, she actually paid into the system, they say no. Food stamps, no. Housing, no. Medicaid, no. And she's frustrated. And I understand. And before I go further, I want to give credit to Miss Kristin Miller. Miss Kristin Miller has also been a good advocate. Like I said, she's on the AAC now with the Accessibility Advisory Committee. So I want to give Miss Kristin Miller some applause there too, because she has come forward too. Even though she's from Chicago or North Carolina, sorry.
Well, we need people like you out there advocating.
Okay. Well, Mom, we're going to have to go to the commercial, so I'm not sure if we can hold you over.
Okay.
Well, we're going to go to the commercial, and
Okay.
if you're online, we'll go into further the discussion. Okay, Mom? So you're listening to the Accessibility Corner here on Dialogue Radio Network.
I'm Stephanie Townsend Ayala. At the law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala and Associates, our attorneys, including Jennifer Coulter and my own daughter, Jessica Clute, fight for the nursing home and home health care rights of the elderly and disabled.
I'm attorney Jessica Clute. The law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala also specializes in estate planning, probate, trusts, wills, powers of attorney, nursing home advocacy, Medicaid asset protection, and guardianships. Call us at 533-0007.
And we are back here to the Accessibility Corner here on Dialogue Radio Network. And if you heard the commercial right now from Ms. Stephanie Townsend Ayala, that's how you get a hold of Ms. Coulter, 533 or 915-533-0007. Is the caller, my mom, still on the line or not?
Let's see.
So I want to finish up with my mom real fast.
I believe she still is.
Mom?
Here, hold on, let me raise it up.
Did you hear me now, Mom?
She there?
Hello?
I don't think she is.
No, it's after she is. Okay.
No.
Well, as my mom gave a good description of what's going on in the community, Ms. Coulter, you've seen this. She's not alone. You know, there's thousands of people that don't have that proper medical care that they need. And before going further, talk about what you do with Ms. Ayala, your primary responsibility as a lawyer.
Me personally, in our office, I'm the person who helps my clients get long-term care Medicaid benefits. I am, in fact, the person your mom should be talking to in my office to fix her totally fixable problems.
Okay.
I also help people avoid the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program, which is this big, scary boogeyman that the state does. They say, oh, if you get Medicaid benefits, the state's going to take your house away. And that's a totally avoidable program. So I do those things in my office. I do a couple of other things as well, but those are the things that get me out of bed and coming to work every morning.
Right, yes, ma'am.
So I see that all the time.
Do you have any questions, Ms. Miller, before we go any further?
Not right now.
Comments? Okay, you can always jump in, you know. All right, you're the co-host. You can jump in, okay? So, what we're going to talk about next, before I want people to really see this too, the technology. We use a lot of technology so we can integrate into the work environment. One of those tools is JAWS. Is that what you use, Ms. Coulter?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which JAWS do you have right now, by the way, just out of curiosity?
Oh.
There's different versions. That's why there's.
I am a terrible blind person. I don't know.
That's okay. That's all right.
I have whatever works.
Yeah. I know Miss.
That's usually the way to go with JAWS anyway.
Yeah.
You use what works.
I know Ms. Miller has it too. So I have a little clip regarding JAWS so people, the listeners can kind of know what we're talking about. Do you have that clip ready, Mr. Abel? That JAWS clip?
I did.
Okay, that's all right. Just let me know when you can, please.
That's it right here, right? That's it? Okay, we're going to play it.
All right, we're going to play it.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's correct.
No, not that Jaws. This Jaws.
Hello, my name is Jaws, which stands for Job Access with Speech. I read what is on the screen for those who are blind. I enable blind users to compose emails, surf online, and much more. Thank you for listening to the Accessibility Corner. Okay, I'm done now. Back to you, George.
So that's Jaws. That's what we use to navigate the.
That was pretty good, George.
You like that? Thank you. Yeah, I'm editing. I'm practicing little by little. So that's what we use. It's called Jaws. It's pretty accessible for emails, calendars. Some websites are kind of difficult, right, Ms. Miller and Ms. Coulter? The websites are kind of tricky there.
Yeah, it all depends on what browser you like to use too. Sometimes Internet Explorer does better, sometimes Firefox, sometimes Google Chrome. It just all depends.
Oh, Lord.
Because I know that I personally haven't used JAWS in quite a few years unless I've had to, because I switched to Mac and it has been beautiful.
The iPhone, that's another tool we use, folks. Listeners, the iPhone is very, very accessible to those who are visually impaired or blind.
Yes.
Talking about the browser, I don't know if you've ever done this, Coulter, but I had a website. I built a website. So I had to literally go to Google Chrome, switch over to Internet, take the link, go back to Google Chrome, back and forth. I'm like, geez, this is. But you got to do what you got to do, and that's the thing, Ms. Coulter. That's what you had to do in essence to get your law degree. You had to go beyond those barriers, find those workarounds, and I bet you had a lot, especially when it came to accessing books.
Oh, always. So I was in college when I went blind. So I'd done college both blind and sighted, and it was. Getting books was difficult. For a long time, I did a physical reader, like a person who would read them to me.
Okay.
We got physical books and we would tear them apart and scan them. And it wasn't until my second year in law school, I was talking to someone at the law school administration office, Brandy Weaver, who's fantastic. She's one of my favorite people. And she said, well, why don't you just give me your receipts and I'll just get you the copies of them online. I'm sorry, what?
Right, exactly. Now
How did I not know? But that made a huge difference.
I've been there. People tell me something like, dude, really, you should have told me this years ago. But
but that's, I'm sorry, George, that's one thing. Even, I mean, my friend who's in law school, he spends hours and hours and hours scanning his own books right now. And I don't know if he's tried to do the books online, but I do know that for my boyfriend who is in college right now at EPCC, they can get the electronic versions of the book, but you have to buy the printed copy first.
You do.
And then he's, to me that's something that's always kind of been obnoxious, because then we're stuck with a printed copy of a book that we can't use. And why not just pay for the electronic copy by itself? Or not only that, but sometimes he'll get an electronic copy and it's all in PDF form. So to find something in that document is a bigger pain than it's worth. And we've spent so much money on getting this book, but he can't really use it either way. So did you ever find anything to kind of get around that, or did you just always have to kind of take the electronic book and hope it worked?
I continued to have the scanning software that would enable me to scan the book if I got the electronic copy, and just went, this is useless to me. But I found that once I had Brandy Weaver working with me, she was amazing about really getting down there and telling the publishers, no, that doesn't work. No, don't do it that way. No, I know why you want to do it that way. I know you don't want to send it to her in a Word doc format, but this is really the best way. And she was fantastic about it. So again, I think it's a lot of advocacy. I don't think that it's that textbook providers are trying to be harmful, right? But they aren't blind.
Don't understand.
They don't know how our scanning how our screen reading software works, and so without educating them on it, it's really hard for them to understand. But I did end up doing the thing where you purchase the books. I don't know if he's getting the help through the Division of Blind Services to purchase those books, but I never really sweated about having to buy them because I just sell them right back.
Well, you know what? That's what I don't get. We're talking to me and my wife were talking about that. You buy a book for $80 and they give you like $10. I'm like, come on, folks. I mean, really? It's just an exaggeration. But the thing about a workaround for the listeners that are visually impaired or blind, what I've used a lot when I was at the Department of Labor, I used Open Book. Are you familiar with that? Okay. And what I did, I set up the Open Book as a virtual printer. So I would technically, when I print it, I would send it to my virtual printer, which is Freedom Scientific, and it would just print out the whole stuff in print. And well, you know what? I can ask you: do you use Braille, Miss Coulter?
I learned Braille. I can use it, but I usually don't.
Yeah, me too. How about you, Miss Miller?
It's too much space.
I do use it. There are times when I prefer to use it, and I do have a note taker that has a Braille display on it. But as far as keeping Braille books in my home, Miss Coulter's right. There really is no room for it.
Yeah,
they take up way too much space. And though I have, or my boyfriend has been told by EPCC that they will get his math book in Braille for him when he takes that class, because math is one of those things that if you can't see it or you can't read the problem for yourself, it can get very difficult. And he's pretty good in math, but he still needs to be able to see it for himself. And so that's something that EPCC's been great as far as accessibility goes. You know, their director there, Jan Lockhart,
yeah.
She is amazing.
She is. And actually, this is my experience, my personal experience now. UTEP is behind the ball when it comes to that, because EPCC, oh Lord, they were quick, they were fast. Ms. Lockhart is very engaging, and she really just cares about her students. I know my wife is a real good friend of hers. We saw her last Thursday. But the point is, we're trying to tell everyone that's listening, we use tools to finish our task. So just because we have a disability, like my mom was saying, that doesn't stop us. Like you, Miss Coulter, I mean, you're an attorney. My Lord. Sometimes I can't add 2 + 2, let alone the concept of law.
Well, in fairness, I sometimes have problems with the math part too. So.
Okay. And then talking about math, just to put this in perspective, when I had sight, you could visually just look down the screen on the paper, and like for example, on algebraic quotation, you had like parentheses, plus, minus, and so I could see that. Now that I'm where I can't see print, and somebody tells me that, for me it's very hard to put that in my head. I give George a lot of credit, George Heredia, which is Kristen's boyfriend. That kid is smart. I mean, he's on the ball, and he's a JAWS trainer, and I'm like, I feel like, man, I could really do stuff like that. Now Miss Coulter, and you know what, Miss Coulter, I appreciate you coming on the show, because I want the listeners to know that, like my mom was saying, and that's how we say it, Kristin Miller would say it too, no matter if you're deaf, hard of hearing, you're in a wheelchair, you have autism, or you're blind, if you want to be a lawyer, do it. Go for it. And that's going to be harder, but you know what? At the end of the day, you could do it.
Yeah,
and Miss Coulter is a perfect example, because she went to UT Austin, which is very hard, what I've heard. Number 2, she graduated with one of the top scorers, which is, I mean, come on. And the thing is, and when people say she's blind, wow, she did it. No, it's not that. It's that she went beyond that. And she's a good role model to show people that, you know what, I always tell people this, if I could do it, you could do it.
Well,
Simple
the way
as that.
I see it is blindness doesn't define you. It's a part of you,
Exactly.
but it doesn't define you. And a lot of people see it that way. And, you know, they automatically see a blind person who went through law school or anything like that as an inspiration.
And another thing...
That's something that actually, I don't know about Mrs. Coulter here, but I don't live to be an inspiration.
Exactly.
I just want someone to acknowledge that I am working towards a goal that I set for myself, and it shouldn't matter what my disability is. That shouldn't be inspirational to you. You should expect that out of anyone.
And I think the biggest perception, or the biggest barrier, Ms. Coulter, and I don't know if you agree with me here, but a lot of people say about, the size of the door and this. Yes, that's a barrier. But for me, the biggest barrier in society sometimes is the perception.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because like Ms. Coulter, and we were talking about this earlier, Ms. Miller, can you agree to this? Do they always talk to you real loud? And I'm like, look, I'm blind, not deaf. No.
I don't have that problem a lot. I think some people have told me that they think it's because I do look people in the face when I'm talking to them.
Yes.
When people don't look at someone when they're talking, I guess it kind of gives that impression of not only can they not see, but maybe they can't hear them either because they don't have that visual reaction.
Exactly. The face-to-face, you're right.
Yeah, and I still have a tiny bit of vision in my left eye. I can see where people are and where things are. I just can't see color and detail. So I lost my vision when I was 3, but I was always raised by my parents to be as visual as possible. And when you're talking to someone, to look at them in the face or as close as you can, go off where their voice is, to look at them. And I think that has a lot to do with how people talk to me, because I don't usually have people screaming at me.
Yeah, well, they talk to me loud, or they'll ask Lulu what I want. What does he want? I'm like,
I don't know. What does he want?
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing that. But was you, Miss Coulter? Do you ever go into the community to talk to students and stuff like that about what you've done and the barriers that you encounter?
I don't really ever end up having the opportunity to go talk to kids, but I don't object to talking to kids. I mean, I think it's important that they know. I feel like maybe knowing me has not always been really fantastic for some other blind people. So my best friend in the world is a teacher, and she had a blind student in her class, and he was giving her some, I don't have to do these things kinds of attitude. And she's like, no. My best friend is blind. I know how this works. You can absolutely do this.
Exactly.
We're not getting out of things. It does you no good in the long run for me to let you slide on these things.
I tried that as a kid, too.
To slide on things? Yeah. But, I think I agree with Miss Miller. It's a lot of it is about perception, and a lot of it is I had a professor, I won't name who or what class or what level of education it was, because this person was well-intentioned, but after the first day of class, I went up to her, and I don't remember what she'd done during class that made me think, I don't think she knows I'm blind. But I went up to her and I said, so I'm blind, and she said, do you need me to wear a microphone?
Oh, really?
And I took like a moment and I went, no, wait, I'm blind. And she goes, I'm like, I don't think we are talking about the same thing here.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with that.
I had a gentleman ask me, because I have a goatee, and he's like, how do you do that? I'm like, what? How do your goatee? I'm like, because I'm not going to lie to you, before when I was younger, I was sarcastic. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I could have said something there, but I took that opportunity to show. It's like, I have a pattern I use. I use my fingers and I shave. And then maybe he walked away and said, okay, I understand that now. But sometimes people are just mean, and to me, when they're being mean, that's where I just walk away. That's fine, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I always like to take that opportunity to show people that don't look at me, don't look at my disabilities, look at my abilities. Mm-hmm. Like Miss Kristin Miller, for a while there, she was selling Avon. And are you still doing that, Miss Kristin Miller?
I do. I have. I only do through the online store now, though. I don't do personal orders because the website is very inaccessible with any kind of screen reader. So I just let people go online and do it themselves. But I do still have it. Yes.
But what I'm trying to say is, she goes out in the community. She's always out there. Mm-hmm. She goes to meetings. She's very forefront. You, Miss Coulter, like you're engaged in in your occupation as a lawyer. Mm-hmm. So. With that being said, I hope the listeners understand that it's time to start seeing us as people rather than a disabled person. Mm-hmm. I'm a person with a disability. With a first-person language, right? And like you, Ms. Coulter, what's the atmosphere like when you were around other lawyers, other attorneys? How do they treat you?
I do elder law for a living, and so elder law lawyers, they're just really nice people. You don't go into that kind of law because you don't love what you do and you're not compassionate for people who need help. But having said that, I do interact with other lawyers. I've had some lawyers be kind of jerks about it, but most of the time people have been really nice. I did have a professor in law school who told me that I could never be a good lawyer.
Oh, wow.
He didn't tell me drop out of law school, but I mean, the implication was pretty clear, and I went home and I cried. There was a snuffly phone call to Stephanie, who is my boss now, but then she was a dear friend, and my best friend's mom And so I called her and he told me I couldn't be a good lawyer. And she said, oh, I took him. He hates women too. Drop his class. I said, really? And she said, yeah. And I went, I'm going to be a good lawyer? And she's like, yeah, you're going to be a good lawyer. It's fine. Just drop his class. He's terrible. It's fine.
Miss Ayala tells me a story.
She's awesome.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not for nothing. Miss Ayala has come forward on other issues, personal issues.
She's personally helped me,
yes.
and it was at a time that I was very broke, and she helped me out big time because I do get SSI, and they were wanting to take it away from me, and she got on the phone with the lady handling my case and wouldn't let her get in a word edgewise until she said, okay, she can have it back. We'll have it to her next month. And I couldn't have loved her more in that moment. But she has been great, and that really sounds like something she would say. I don't know her very well, but just from that, it does sound like
she's fantastic.
She is awesome. And you know what? Sometimes, by the way, I want to mention this, and hopefully Miss Ayala is listening. We're putting together a Thanksgiving dinner to feed 25 individuals with disabilities. Now, the reason why I say people with disabilities is because a lot of times, like you say, Ms. Miller, like me, I live on fixed income, Social Security, or SSDI. Sometimes the spouses or the parents of that person that was a disability doesn't go to work because they need to care for them because either they can't get out of bed by themselves. And so this is a way to give back to the community. And Miss Ayala, she actually got in contact with me, and she said, you know what, I want to donate so you could raffle to pay for this dinner. And she's gonna let me raffle off a package. And I do apologize, I don't have that in front of me, but in tune, it's $1,000 package. It includes a will, a living will, I think power of attorney.
Oh, I can tell you what all it includes, if you'd like.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello, I forget. Like, hello, George. Yeah.
So it'll include your durable power of attorney. That's somebody to handle your finances if you're not able to do it for yourself. Your medical power of attorney, that's somebody to handle the medical decisions for you if you can't do it yourself. A lot of people think, well, I'm married, my spouse can do that stuff, and that's not actually true. Your spouse doesn't just have the authority to do it. So then your advance directive, that tells your family and your physicians what you want in an end-of-life decision. Do you want to be kept alive by extraordinary means? You want a feeding tube? You just want the good drugs? And whatever it is you want. And then you don't have to make your family make that decision for you, because there's no decision you're going to make there and walk away from feeling good about.
No, of course. No.
It's going to cover a declaration of guardian in case of later need, so that if the powers of attorney fail for some reason, or we hit a circumstance that's not covered by them, when we go to the court, we can say, this is who I want to be my guardian. If that person can't do it, this is who I want. Under no circumstances, name my no good, such and such, whoever. And then the will, and that's going to make sure that we're transferring your assets on your passing to who you want it to go to in one of the least expensive ways possible.
Yeah, and she came forward. She said, George, I want to donate that package so you can raffle off. So we're going to start that raffling next Monday at $10 to pay for the Thanksgiving dinner. So Miss, that's stuff she does. I mean, she just comes forward and says, George, here you go. And I'm like, wow, people don't really do that, in society nowadays. Because she has that heart, like you do, Miss Coulter, to be like you say, you want to work where you love to work. And the thing was that, and I had a comment about that, but I went blank, and I do apologize. But Miss Coulter, so someone wants to get a hold of your office. Do you call that 523 number?
915-533-0007, and they tell the person who answers what's going on, and if we can help them, we schedule them a consultation, and if we can't, we try to get them to the people who can.
Okay. I know what I'm going to say now, Ms. Miller, before I forget. I'm going to thank the people that have donated for the Thanksgiving dinner. Abel Rodriguez, he was one of the first people to donate. Hector, how do you say it? Hector Montes. Bernie Sargent, the historian, Gilbert Guillen. So I do appreciate everyone that's been donating so far. And sorry, I just want to jump in there before I forget. I want to give them the proper props, I'm sorry, Miss Miller, you were going to say something?
I just wanted to ask Ms. Coulter, my law school friend, would it be possible if he would like to speak with someone who's been through all of this? I think he's going into his last semester of law school next semester, but he I mean, he hits barriers.
Semester of law school.
He's telling me he's taking 16 hours next semester, and I told him he was absolutely crazy. But that's just to be able to graduate in May. So, but if he would like to talk with someone who's been through all of this, with any barriers he may encounter between now and the end of his law school career, could I direct him to call to you for your office? Or?
He can call my office when we get done. I'll get you my cell, which I almost never answer. The office is a better way to get me. And my email address, which is jen@elpasoelderlaw.com, because that is usually the very best way to get me. But yeah, I'm always happy to talk to him. I'm with you. I'm not out there trying to be an inspiration.
Right.
But I'm always happy to talk to somebody if I can ease a path I walked through briars on. I'm always happy to help him avoid those kinds of things.
Right. Exactly. I know he's worked with Mrs. Ayala as well. There was a project he wanted to start, and I had gotten him in touch with her, and she was going to work with him on that. I'm not sure where that has gone as of today, but I know that they had previously talked through email and that.
She's fantastic. The ability she has had to undergo a lot of difficulties having me as an employee. When I started their case management software didn't work it did not work at all with JAWS. Wow. We called the Division of Blind Services, and they got somebody out to try to see if we could do some workarounds. We called the case management software people, and they said, well, we're not required to make it accessible for you, so tough.
Yeah,
we had to switch case management software, which was not inexpensive. I forced her to go paperless because, we needed things scanned for me, and so we had to figure out how do we do that. And she's been such an angel, and having people like that who are out there in the community who aren't disabled, who go, she says it's not that she didn't consider that I was blind when she hired me. She considered it. But she also considered that I went to the number 15 law school in the country.
Yes, ma'am.
That I graduated with honors.
Yes, ma'am.
That I did this for her over the summer, that I'm good at it, that, all of these other things. She looked at all of those things the same way she would have looked at any other factors in my life and went, on balance,
Ms.
totally
Coulter,
worth it.
You know what she did? She saw your abilities, not your disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're coming up in a few more minutes to close out the show, but I did want to mention something, Ms. Coulter, and I don't know if you mentioned it, and I apologize if you did. Isn't there like a program where if you want to save money because you have Medicaid?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Okay, so it's kind of a complicated issue. Here's the thing. We have between 43 and 45 different programs in the state of Texas that we call Medicaid, and they all have different requirements, and they all have different goals, right? So the Medicaid that your mom should be getting is not the same as the Medicaid that someone who wants to go back to work after a disability is getting, is not the same as someone who's working and making too much income but who needs to buy into the Medicaid system is getting.
Okay.
But there is this amazing thing for people who became disabled before their 26th birthday. We can do something called an ABLE account. ABLE is, the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act.
Yes.
And these are so cool because they let us put up to $14,000 a year into an account that doesn't count towards your $2,000 total countable resource limit up to $100,000.
Really?
Yeah. And it's super cool because it gets around a lot of the SSI rules that are really problematic. At a conference I attended recently, the Social Security policy guy came remotely and attended, and he was explaining how these things work together, and he said, well, I don't think this is probably what Congress meant to do. I think they don't understand how our rules operate when they did this, but that's how they wrote the law, so we have to follow it.
Yep.
And it works.
So we can put the money, say we've got a third-party settled special needs trust. Kristen, you're getting SSI?
Yes.
So your mom creates a third-party settled special needs trust. She puts money into it when she passes away or during her lifetime for your benefit. But if she pays money out of that trust to pay for your housing or your food, It's income to you, and it will reduce the amount of your Social Security benefit.
Yes, that's why they wanted to take my Social Security before, is because of a trust fund.
She can instead put the money from the trust fund into the ABLE account for your rent and food expenses. You can then take it out and use it to pay for your rent and food expenses, and it doesn't count against you anymore.
Or you could donate to the George Foundation. Not really.
Yeah, we're going to trigger penalties. But
there you go. But the thing is that kind of information, Ms. Coulter, is very important for people that use SSI as a sole income. Only income, because there's a lot of people that are in the community, or people with disabilities. 70% are unemployed, and they depend on Medicaid, they depend on SSI. But at the end of the day, I guarantee you what, if you gave them an opportunity to get off of it, they would.
Yeah,
I would.
I'll tell you what, in a heartbeat.
I did. So when we had that opportunity, absolutely.
Okay, we're coming up. Excuse me, I just punched the microphone. We're coming up on 2 minutes to end up the show. And Miss Miller, I did want to give you the opportunity. You have a fundraiser going on Facebook?
Yes, I actually. Facebook is rather nice and lets you donate your birthday to a fundraiser, but my service dog is from the Fidelco Guide Dog Foundation in Bloomfield, Connecticut, and it is a non-profit organization, and so they run completely off donations from citizens and different organizations like the Lions Company. They receive no government assistance, so they provide every dog that they place. They only do German Shepherds. But they do in-home placement only, and they provide each dog with free of charge. And these dogs take $45,000 to $55,000 a piece to breed, raise, and train. And so imagine,
like a Mercedes.
Yes, imagine what kind of monetary stability that takes. And so I have a fundraiser going on Facebook right now that is through October 27th to raise $200 for Fidelco, and I've actually already raised $100, so we're doing good.
All right.
But you can donate to them any time of the year. They Fidelco.org. You can look them up and donate to them anytime, but I do have that fundraiser open on Facebook.
Ms. Coulter, I want to say, for me, it's been an honor for you to be here. And before we leave, can you go and you have any last comments, any last stories you want to give to those listeners to let them know, like, you know what, if I could do it, you could do it?
I think that's as simple as that. If I can do it, you can do it. But I think also it's just been such a really wonderful thing to get to be here. And I hope that everybody out there will be disabled, not disabled, everybody will be taking the opportunity to think about where they are, where they're going, and make sure that they're doing the best they can in their community.
And Kristin, I hope you're getting used to this, because I'm more likely to be my co-host sometimes, okay?
Drag me along. I have nothing else to do.
I did want to mention before I forget, for our next show, our last show, actually, we had a good response. We had Veronica Escobar, a candidate for Congress and a former county judge. We also had Josue Rodriguez and from Desert Depth, and Mr. Mark Salazar from Dio and Valar. And our next show, and he personally guaranteed it, and I know he did. This man is a man of his word. I've known him for, of course, anyone's known him, but the mayor, Oscar Leeser, former mayor, he will be here in the show. It'll be November the 2nd. So again, folks, you have been listening to the Accessibility Corner here on Dialogue Radio Network, and I'm proud to say it's been brought to you by the law office of Stephanie Townsend Ayala. And Mr. Abel, do it for me, sir. Close it out for me, please, sir.
De Huacho Raza!
I'm Jessica Clute, attorney at law. The law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala and Associates specializes in estate planning, probate, trusts, wills, powers of attorney, nursing home advocacy, Medicaid planning, and guardianships.
I'm Stephanie Townsend Ayala. Our attorneys, including Jennifer Coulter, my daughter Jessica, and I, are University of Texas Law School graduates. Jessica and I are also proud second and third generation University of Texas grads. Call the law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala at 533-0007.